KZN police arrest 15 undocumented workers and a factory owner in Chatsworth. This happened last week. Let's get into it. Vanakkam, namaskaram, namaste, salam, sobona, salutation. What happened in Chatsworth last week is being presented as law enforcement in action. But when you examine the facts, a different story emerges, one of systematic failure, legal contradiction, and selective justice. The raid carried out by SEPs targeted a local business allegedly employing undocumented foreign nationals. Workers were arrested, 15 of them. The owner himself was arrested. But the real question is, who should actually be held accountable? Because for years, our government has failed at the most basic level, securing South Africa's borders. Undocumented individuals do not simply appear inside a business. They enter through a weak border control, overwhelmed immigration systems, administrative breakdown, as well as rampant corruption. That is not the failure of a business owner. That is a failure of the state. Yet instead of fixing the source of the problem, enforcement is aimed at the end point. Now consider the legal position of the employer. Under the Immigration Act 13 of 2002, it is illegal to employ undocumented foreigners. Employers are expected to verify their documentation. But here is the reality. There is no reliable, accessible system for small businesses to verify these permits in real time. So employers rely on what is produced to them by these prospective employees. And when these documents later are found out to be fraudulent, the same employer is treated as a criminal. Now here comes the contradiction. Under the Labour Relations Act 66 of 1995, these same undocumented illegal workers are still legally recognized as employees in South Africa. I kid you not. They cannot simply be dismissed. They are protected under the constitution of this country and its labor laws. They can approach the CCMA, and South African courts have repeatedly ruled in their favor even when their documentation was found to be invalid, that they found to be illegal. So the employer is trapped in a legal catch-22. If he hires an illegal foreigner, he risks criminal prosecution. If he refuses to hire a person based on their being illegal, he faces the risk of being charged for discrimination in terms of the Constitution. If he dismisses an illegal foreigner, he can face labor laws consequences. That is not regulation, that is a legal contradiction created by the state itself, our government. Now let's turn to the rest of these business people. In law, there is a term called mens rea, refers to intent. Did the employer knowingly hire undocumented workers, or did he rely in good faith on documents presented to him? There was no intent. If there was no intent, then the arrest itself may be legally questionable, because negligence is not automatically criminal and good faith does matter. So again we must ask, is this justice or is this misdirected enforcement? And if the business owner gets a strong legal team, he may have grounds to sue the state for unlawful arrest if they cannot prove beyond reasonable doubt that this businessman had intent to hire these illegal foreigners. Now let me be clear, I agree that the issue of undocumented foreigners needs to be addressed, but you have to ask yourself, why the sudden peak in interest in this matter in the last 6 to 8 months? Why the selective enforcement? Could it be linked to the upcoming local government elections, the scramble for your vote? You see, in my humble opinion, if the government was truly serious about addressing undocumented illegal foreigners, the approach would look very different. It would start at the borders, putting in resources, personnel, and having the political will to stop the influx. It would then extend to informal settlements, where the majority of these undocumented individuals live and operate, often with the knowledge and assistance of local landlords renting out rooms and business spaces to them. Now, that in itself is a criminal offense. It's called aiding and abetting an illegal person. But I seriously doubt that you're going to see any arrest there. The informal settlement actually is where the real ecosystem of illegal foreigners exists. And that is where law enforcement is non-existent. Instead, we see high visibility raids on small businesses who are easy targets with limited means to defend themselves. That is not a comprehensive strategy. It is a performance of control. And in that performance, the small business owner becomes the scapegoat for a much larger failure. Until the state fixes its borders, its documentation systems, and its enforcement priorities, these raids like this will not solve the problem. It will only expose it for what it is. And every arrest like this raises a final, uncomfortable question. Are we enforcing the law, or are we compensating for the state's inability to enforce it where it actually matters? Nice to ask. My name is Thanasegaran Rubanathan Murli, founder, president of the 1860 NIC Congress. We tell what we must, we tell no flops.
Tell what you must, tell what you crave, but don't tell a flop. Don't tell with the masala.